everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and of course welcome back to part 2 of this series of tips and tricks and just kind of things to know when you're traveling to Japan. If you missed part 1, I kind of covered like before you go stuff and like when you arrive at like Haneda or Narita kind of thing. You don't necessarily need to watch that video to get what's going on in this video, but it is kind of a helpful companion piece to the whole series of videos of, traveling through Japan. And I will say this, I am not your average travel guide, travel connoisseur, is it? I'm just giving you kind of tips and tricks that helped me along in Japan, stuff that I picked up before I went, and then stuff I picked up on my way there. So that's just kind of like what this video series is. It's kind of a layman's travel series to Japan, if you will. It's just kind of like some schmuck like me going to Japan and having a good time and just passing on some of the things I picked up along the way to you. So from the title of this video, you probably guessed it. It's tips for Tokyo. This is kind of, again, much like with the first video when I started writing the script for this, I was going to talk about Tokyo as a whole. I was going to cover Shibuya, Shinjuku, Akihabara, Ginza, Odaiba, Roppongi. I was going to cover all that in one video, and then I, again, started writing the script. I was like, oh, this is going to be way too long. And I want to try to keep these videos under 30 minutes if I can, just because more people watch it, get better viewer retention, things like that. So this should not be an hour-long video like the first one. This one is going to be a shorter video, and this is going to cover like general tips for Tokyo, like when you first, leave the leave the airport, and kind of just tips and tricks, faux pas, things like that for Tokyo. And then in future videos, I'm going to cover, the different districts of Tokyo in more detail, so that way you can get a more concise idea of what things are there, what you can do, what to look forward to. And being that this is video game nerd channel, it's gonna focus a lot on that kind of thing like that. And given that I'm a 40-year-old man who enjoys beer, whiskey, and highballs, I will focus on that on some of the videos too. But here we go. So like I said, in the last video, we talked about arriving at the airport. So we've left the airport now. We've either hopped on the subway, hopped on a bus, taxi cab, rented a car, shuttle service to the hotel. So it's kind of like, what do you want to do when you first get there? I know, so from my experience traveling with my good buddy Keenan, who you will see in the live streams coming up, the IRL stuff we're going to be doing in Japan. You'll see Keenan. He's going to do some game hunting with me. But when him and I got to Shibuya on our first trip to Japan, he was done. He was out. He was tired. It was a long flight, a long day. But me, because I literally waited my entire life to come to Japan, I had all this adrenaline going. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do something. So you may be like me, you may be like Keenan. If you're like Keenan, first thing you should do, go to the hotel, take a nap. Your internal clock, you're going to be jet lagged. It's going to be all kinds of screwed up. Because odds are, if you're flying from the East Coast, just about everything I see from the East Coast, you fly in the morning, you land in the afternoon the next day in Japan. And, next day Japan time might be very late at night, early in the morning for you in your home time zone, depending on where you leave from. So it might be 3, 4 in the morning where you're from, but it's, early afternoon in Japan. So with that in mind, if you're tired, take a nap, get some sleep. The first couple of days in Japan, your sleep schedule is going to be all kinds of screwed up. So if you're tired, take a nap. But if you're like me and you got that adrenaline going, and you just want to get out there and explore, my first suggestion, get something to eat. Now, if you took advantage of the luggage service that I told you about, if you're staying in a hotel and your stuff is being delivered to the hotel, you may or may not be able to check in just yet, depending on what time you arrive. So doing the luggage service is a good idea, because otherwise, when you get to, like, if you're staying in Shibuya or Shinjuku, at the stations, they'll have lockers you can rent. You can put your luggage in there until check-in and kind of go explore. Because as I mentioned in the last video, trying to lug around a giant suitcase in these small bars and restaurants and shops is not going to be an easy time. So if you can store your luggage either at the hotel, and a lot of hotels, because this happened to be my second trip to Japan, we were able to keep our stuff at the hotel front desk until check-in. And then once we were able to check in, We came back, got our stuff, went to our room. So definitely find something to do with your luggage, be it storage locker, store it at the hotel if you can, or have it delivered to the hotel by the service. So that way you can go explore. So we're exploring what to eat, kind of thing like that. Again, that's the first thing I would suggest getting there. What should you eat? Well, I've got a couple suggestions. One, I would say probably stick close to your hotel or your Airbnb, wherever you're staying, if at all possible. If you're Airbnb, Vrbo, you might be a little further out from bars and restaurants, so you might not be able to stick too close to it. But generally, I would say stay close to it because, especially if you have like an adult beverage or you eat a ton of ramen, that adrenaline spike might dip and you might be exhausted. So you don't want to be too far from your bed so you can, go hit that nap. But what I would suggest, top 3 suggestions, I would say conveyor belt sushi because it's quick and easy. Again, if you get tired, you can just pay for your food, go because you're just, grabbing the sushi off the belt. Ramen, again, quick and easy. Or find like a little katsu place. Again, quick and easy. That's the theme here. Just because you don't want to spend all that time at a restaurant on this first meal, only because, again, you might get tired. You never know when that jet lag is going to kick in. So you do want to kind of prepare yourself for if that does happen. Or you just go to a vending machine, get a ton of Boss coffee, and keep the night going. But yeah, I also suggest these 3 things because they're uniquely Japanese. I mean, you don't want your first meal in Japan to be McDonald's, do you? I'll talk about some McDonald's in a little bit later in this video, but you do want something unique for your first meal in Japan. And I would say those are like the top 3, like unique, like when you think of Japan, you think of ramen, you think of sushi, you think of katsu. So that's why I suggest those. I'm going to kind of go into detail about some of those in a little bit later in this video and some other videos. Also, if you do find yourself, if you're able to check into wherever you're staying and you're hungry and you're a little too tired though to go to a restaurant and sit down, another suggestion I would have for you is stop by a convenience store, 7-Eleven, Lawson's, Family Mart. They're not trashy food like we have in America where it's kind of like a hot dog or a terrible pizza or beef jerky or something like that. No, you gotta think differently about these convenience stores. They're more like mini supermarket. They're like a mini Whole Foods, or a Kroger or something of that nature. Like they've got fresh food delivered daily there. They don't make it obviously, but it's delivered daily, and it's actually really good. Like you can get Family Mart's fried chicken is to die for. 7-Eleven's got these steamed buns that are delicious. Lawson's got these chicken nuggets. You can also grab like a bento box. Sometimes they'll have like fresh sushi. You can get an onigiri, things like that you can grab. Maybe get like, my personal favorite, a melon Fanta melon soda. All-time favorite. I cannot wait to get back there. In fact, let me see if I move my head. Nah, you can't really see it. I do have the first one I got. It's in the Gundam case. It's an aluminum bottle that I washed. Don't worry, it's not sticky gross. I brought it back with me from Japan. It's really cool. Delicious soda. But yeah, you can stop by one of the convenience stores and, just grab a bite to take back to your hotel with you. You can snack, munch on it, and then pass out. And then wake up probably like 2, 3 in the morning and wander around the empty streets of Tokyo, which is awesome to do, by the way. That's going to be one of my tips and tricks in the next video of talking about Tokyo, is to just kind of wander around at night when, everyone's asleep and you're awake. So you got your first meal out of the way and you want to start exploring. What should you do first? So one thing I would suggest is if you made that checklist that I mentioned in the first video, I would go look on my checklist and see what's close to you. Again, this all depends on what time of the day it is when you arrive. I mean, at this point, it could be really late and stuff starts closing. It could be, maybe you arrived early in the morning and nothing's open yet. Because one thing I found in Tokyo on my first trip, like nothing opened up before like 10 or 11 a.m. except for like McDonald's and like the convenience stores and Don Quixote, which I will talk about soon. Everything else was like closed, even like breakfast diners. Like I think Keenan and I got our first real Japanese breakfast at like 11 a.m., something like that, maybe 10 a.m. But it was a lot later than we expected because we were up kind of early and we were like, oh, let's go grab some breakfast and things like that. But nothing was open but the McDonald's, so we got like a little breakfast sandwich from McDonald's just to get something in our systems. Started exploring, and then we found a diner that opened up, and then We had some Japanese pancakes, some eggs. It was delicious. But yeah, so what to do first will kind of depend on what time of day it is. Let's just say, though, for argument's sake, you're there in the late afternoon, early evening, so stuff is still open or has already opened, kind of thing like that. I would say look on your checklist and just see what's closest, see what's within walking distance. I suggest this because then you start to get the layout of the neighborhood you're staying in, so you start to realize where things are, and you can like kind of take mental notes, maybe even take pictures, like, oh, hey, that is like a cool looking place to grab a drink later, or there's a cool little diner to have breakfast at, something like that. Just so you start learning where things are and you do less Google map searching and more just with your eyes what's appealing to you. So that would be my first suggestion. Or if something like is a short train ride, maybe even do that. But I would suggest that first initial when you're there, because again, you're going to be a little tired whether you napped or not. I would suggest something in walking distance so you can get the lay of the land, kind of thing like that. Another thing you do if there's nothing close by, if everything on your checklist is like 20-minute train rides away, things like that, I would say just walk out of your hotel, your Airbnb, pick a direction and go. And my first trip to Tokyo, to Japan, Keenan and I stayed in Shibuya, or just like, shoot, man, it was like maybe like a 10-15 minute walk from the famous Shibuya Scramble, Shibuya Crossing, something like that. Maybe not even that far away from it. We didn't realize it at the time. In fact, a funny little story, and I'll talk about this more in the Shibuya video. I'll probably re-mention it. We were up so early on our first morning there that we walked through the Shibuya Crossing because there was no one out, no cars, no nothing. Walked right through it. I didn't even realize where we were at the time because we were still trying to learn our neighborhood of Shibuya our first time there. We knew of the Shibuya Scramble, and it wasn't until later on in the day when we walked back through, we were like, wait a second, holy crap. And I even have a picture. I'll try to find it on my phone and put it on this video of just the empty Shibuya crossing. It's surreal, just something that's so famous for being so crowded, just to see it completely empty. Really cool. But what I did was Keenan was, like I said, was done. He got to his bed in our Airbnb and just passed out. And I had all this adrenaline. I was like, what to do? So I just kind of like walked out of the Airbnb and I just kind of looked around. I was like, I'm going that way. And I'm really glad I did that because I found this well-lit side street, maybe as wide as like your average SUV. It wasn't very big, probably only for foot traffic and bicycles and things like that. And I'm glad I did this because I saw a couple cool things. One thing I saw this father and son kicking a soccer ball back and forth, and the kid would have been about what Sean's age was at the time, which if I think back clearly 8 or 9, kind of thing like that. And it did make me homesick for a second because I just thought about the kind of kid Sean was and how he quickly makes friends, that he would have probably gone up to that kid and, you know, had a little exchange, even though that kid probably didn't know English and Sean doesn't know Japanese. And kind of made me homesick for a second. I was like, oh man, I wish he was on this trip with me. But also at the same time, it's like, no, I need this guy's trip, kind of thing like that. And so I saw that. So that was kind of like a nice heartfelt moment. And then walking, I found this like just delicious looking ramen shop, and they had like the plastic food that you always see for Japan out in front. I was just kind of like staring at it. It looked like a really nice place. And I just wandered in, went in, had a really great bowl of ramen, and that was my first meal of that trip because I didn't take my own advice, well, at least advice that I thought of later, to get food right away. I think Keenan and I grabbed snacks from like the 7-Eleven in the airport just to get some food in us, but we didn't really eat yet. And then I continued walking down that alley or side street, kind of thing like that, and I came across this really cool secondhand record shop. I walked in, and the store clerk, nice as can be, tried to speak English to me. Luckily, I had Google Translate, so we could converse. And I got a first pressing Japanese press of David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and it is awesome. It's one of my prized possession. First thing I bought in Japan. So I did that, and just kind of went down that side street and came back towards the Airbnb, and then I found this really cool secondhand shop I bought, and you can see it right there. Final Fantasy 1 complete in box for like 300 yen, which is about $1.70, something like that. So that goes for way more now because of us Western collectors buying that shit. But yeah, again, I wouldn't have gotten that if I just didn't start wandering on my own, kind of thing like that. And it's something you can do in Japan, especially like Tokyo, because it's one of the safest cities around. You don't have to worry about. Now, there are places you have to worry about, and I'll cover that in later videos. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about getting mugged or someone pickpocketing you or anything like that. You can wander the streets of Tokyo at night at any hour of the day and be relatively safe. I say relatively because nothing's ever 100%. And I don't want someone coming back and commenting in this video, I got beat up on the streets of Tokyo. That stinks, and I'm sorry. But it's relatively safe. Like I'm a big dude, so I mean, not too many people are going to mess with me, regardless. But I felt perfectly safe wandering around. It's a great feeling to wander around. And even my wife, when I took her last year to Japan, when she like walked around with just Bowie, she didn't feel like she felt perfectly fine doing that. Can't say that much for American cities. But yeah, so like just getting out and wandering around the city, wandering around just my area, it was really, really cool. So yeah, that's just one of those things that you can do there, and I definitely recommend it if you've got nothing in mind of what you want to do with those first couple hours, and you're not extremely tired or super hungry or anything like that. Just go wander the streets, find something. I mean, Google Maps will help you get back to where you need to be, and you'll also find in all my stays in Japan, wherever I've stayed at, it took me like a day and I kind of figured out my neighborhood, and I could go all over the place and not get lost. Like I could find all the subway stations, could find the local bars and restaurants that I wanted to check out and things like that. And it's a great feeling. It immerses you in a sense, just wandering and finding landmarks and finding places to go, and finding these little side streets. It's really, really cool. So that's something I definitely recommend you do, if you've got nothing that you really like want to set out and do, because everything you want to do is further out. So just wander your neighborhood and find things. You'll be safe. You might find a really cool bar or restaurant like I did, or a cool little shop that you'll get your first souvenir within the first hour of being there. You're like, oh, I found this. So definitely something I would recommend doing on your first, your first few minutes, first couple hours in Tokyo. So like I said earlier in the video, like Tokyo is just a massive city. It's a massive metropolis. And there's so many different parts to explore. You have, the most popular spots: Shibuya, Shinjuku, Akihabara. I mean, that's where all the gamers want to go, and I'll talk about that soon. You have Ginza for the high-end shopping, Harajuku for just all the trendy shopping, like anything that's cool and trendy going on in Japan, you're going to find it at Harajuku. And then you have Roppongi, that is kind of like the nightlife district and things like that. And in later videos, I don't want to forget about Odaiba, where you can see the giant unicorn Gundam. And I'm going to cover all those in later videos, because again, writing the script, it just became too massive. And I was like, I don't want to do another like hour plus long video for these. I want to try to keep them under 30 minutes. So I'll do more of those districts in detail in a later video, but that's just kind of what to expect from them and from the series going forward. But I will say, when you're traveling to the different parts of Tokyo, definitely use Google Maps for the trains. That's what I mentioned in my first video, a couple different apps that do the transit system. I personally have always used Google Maps. I love it because it will tell you what line you need to take. It will tell you what time the train's arriving, how many stops until your stop, and also what platform it's arriving at. And the platform is key, because you get on that wrong train, you're going to hop off and have to backtrack, and it's a pain in the butt. So Google Maps is definitely a useful tool. And between that and Google Translate or any kind of translation app, those will probably be what you use the most on your trip. So definitely have those downloaded to your phone and have them ready to, just be at the ready to use. And Google Maps will not only help you find your trains, but it's going to help you find your way around Tokyo, because the addresses for places there are not like they are in the West. So it does get confusing. So having, the walking directions from Google Maps to find something and show you exactly where to go is definitely key, kind of thing like that. So if jet lag is kicking your butt, and you wake up super early, like I have done on every trip I've had to Japan, I would suggest, instead of like using Google Maps to take the subway, if it's not too long of a walk to your destination. Because most of the stuff is not going to be open when you get there if you go by subway anyways. Probably not even going to be open by the time you get there walking, because you're going to be so jet lagged, because you're going to go stir crazy in your hotel. Even if you bring like a Switch or something to entertain you, you're going to get bored because you want to get out and explore. So, I mean, going on an early morning walk towards your destination isn't a bad idea. On those walks that I did many, many times in Japan, I found really cool shrines and temples. Again, shops and restaurants that I wouldn't have seen from the train. So it's really, really neat to do that, because you'll find stuff like, you'll find little diamonds in the rough, little gems that you would not have seen if you did Tokyo by train the entire time, or taxi, or, traveling, on the main path, going off the beaten path. You're going to find a lot of cool stuff in Tokyo. So I definitely suggest, if you can walk to a destination, walk, because you'll never know what you're going to find along the way. I remember when on my second trip, when I went with my buddy Nelson, when we were doing the YouTube channel Clash of the Nerds, we filmed so much cool stuff just walking to our destinations, because we were up so early. And we're like, I would say is like, let's save the 300 yen that we'd spend on the train ticket, and let's just walk and see what we find. If we get tired or hungry, we can grab something along the way, eat, drink, and then, keep going, kind of thing like that. It's like, this way, we see all the cool stuff there is to see, and we're not just like looking out train windows. You will see some cool stuff looking out train windows, mind you, but if you can walk to your destination, I highly suggest that. Now, these are some universal tips that I want to give you for Tokyo, and you apply them a lot to various other cities too, like Yokohama, Kyoto, Osaka, the other big cities. Like, a lot of these will be kind of universal just for Japan in general. So that's what this kind of part of the video is going to be. Vending machines are going to be everywhere in Tokyo, so you will never want for drinks or snacks. Anywhere you go, you'll see a ton of vending machines. Definitely try them out. Fun, unique experience, and most of the time they're not that expensive or anything like that. But I will say, don't have that as your main source of drinks and snacks, because they are more expensive than the convenience stores, or if there's like a market near you, or Don Quixote, for instance. So like the occasional drink and snack, cool, but if you see a vending machine and you see a 7-Eleven across the street from the vending machine, go to the 7-Eleven and get yourself that same drink, because it's probably going to be like half as much. And, save some of that money for the arcade or gachapons or things like that. And, speaking of the convenience stores, like your 7-Elevens, your Lawson's, your Family Marts, try some of their unique food out. Like, I'm not suggesting, eat there all the time, but one thing we always do when we go to Japan, we do a convenience store dinner or convenience store lunch, kind of thing like that, where we just go to the convenience store, we spend about 1,000 yen on food and drink, and we just pick out random unique items that we can't get back here in the US, just as kind of a fun piece together meal, kind of thing like that. Like I said, we do it usually once on the trip. In fact, like Sean on his first trip to Japan really liked doing that. In fact, and then when we went back last year, even though he was a teenager and not a little kid wanting to try all the snacks, he was like, hey, can we do a 7-Eleven dinner tonight instead of going to one of the many restaurants, just because there's lots of cool food there. His favorite thing were these steamed buns, and they had a pepperoni pizza one. So it was just like, your steamed bun. And then the fillings was like marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni. I almost said pepperoni pizza. Pepperonis. And it's delicious. If you go to Japan, definitely have one of those. And then I mentioned before, Family Mart's fried chicken is to die for. And then Lawson has these really good chicken nuggets. So definitely, at least try some of this food from the convenience stores. You won't regret it at all. One thing I covered in the last video, if you need cash, because Japan has gotten away from being just all cash all the time. A lot of places, even small places, take credit cards now. But if you do need cash, your best bet is probably using the 7-Eleven ATM. It doesn't charge you foreign exchange fees, and the exchange between yen and dollar is usually the best you're going to find outside of a bank. And you're going to see a lot more 7-Eleven ATMs than you are going to see banks. So I would suggest you need cash, go to 7-Eleven. There's probably one in or across the street from your hotel, or Airbnb for that matter. So definitely use that if you need cash. And speaking of unique foods, I don't suggest, one of my big things whenever I'm traveling, be it internationally or just within the US, kind of thing like that, I don't like to go to restaurants that I can go to at home, like McDonald's, chain restaurants. I don't want to do that. I want to have unique food restaurants, mom and pop stuffs from that area. Now, the exception to that rule is when I'm in Japan. Because the McDonald's, the KFC, Wendy's, Burger Kings, they do have unique menu items that you can't get in the U.S. There's like teriyaki burgers. And for whatever reason, the U.S. doesn't do this, but you can get a burger from McDonald's with the little round Egg McMuffin egg on it. I don't know why we don't have that in the U.S., but they've got a burger like that there. So, going into these fast food restaurants just to try, if like a lunch or even like a midnight snack, because generally speaking, if I go to a McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or something like that, it's a midnight snack. I'm up at 2 a.m. Nothing's open. I'm hungry. McDonald's is. So, try their unique food there. Like I said, teriyaki burger. There was also the samurai burger at McDonald's. That was delicious. You can get a melon Fanta frosty float from Wendy's. I definitely recommend that because me and melon Fanta just go hand in hand. So it's a cool experience to try these unique offerings from the fast food restaurants that you can't get in the U.S. So I definitely say try that because, again, you want to experience everything you can. And this is a quick, cheap experience that you can do, especially at 2, 3 a.m. when you're jet lagged. Use it then. As far as eating local, if you're hungry and don't know exactly what you want to eat, like if you're like, I don't know if I want ramen or sushi or I have no idea what I want, I would say just go for a walk. Like find out where like a row of restaurants are, things like that, and just go for a walk through there. Generally speaking, like I was saying, when I found that ramen place, you had these like plastic ramen, not ramen, but plastic food dishes out that kind of show you what the food's supposed to look like. And, going for a walk past a bunch of restaurants and just letting your tummy tell you where to go is a really fun thing to do, especially because you might try something completely different. When Keenan and I got to Kyoto for the first time, we were in Kyoto Station, we were starving. And we had about, I think, like an hour till our check-in at our Airbnb. So we wandered through Kyoto Station just trying to figure out what we wanted to eat because we had a ton of sushi and ramen already in Tokyo. So we're like, let's try something different. So we wandered around. We found this restaurant, and it had like this like rice and cheese and chicken with mushroom bowl. It just looked delicious. I really would like, if I knew I was gonna be making a video about traveling through Japan one day, I would have like written down what these restaurants were that I went to so I could say, go here. I will do that on this trip, mind you. But yeah, so we just wandered around and just kind of letting our stomachs tell us what to do. We saw that like plastic plate of that and it looked so good. I was like, Keenan, let's eat there. He's like, yep. That was one of the best meals we had in the entire trip. We don't even know what the food was that we ate, but it was delicious. So that's something I suggest to you. Just kind of like if you don't know what you want to eat, just wander around and find something and you're like, that looks delicious, let me try it, and you won't regret it. I can guarantee it. One thing I would say also, if you get lost or Google Maps isn't help, don't be afraid to ask directions. Just about every Japanese person I came in contact with on my travels were super friendly and super helpful. In fact, some of them could even like see that like glazed over look in my eyes, like that dude is lost, let me help him out. And they'll come up, and some of them will speak almost perfect English, and you can converse back and forth. Some will have broken English, and you can probably make out a conversation. Others might not know English, but yeah, Google Translate, you can work out a conversation. But they will help you out. Don't be afraid to ask. Like a lot of people will keep to themselves and things like that. But a lot of people, especially if you're at a store or a restaurant, those folks will definitely be eager to help you. I remember I was at a store, and Google Maps was just kind of wigging out on me. I was trying to get to this restaurant, and I asked the lady at the door of the store, I was like, hey, which way do I go to get to this restaurant? And she's like, oh, follow me. And she walked me to the restaurant. So I was like, oh, you don't have to, I just need to be pointed in the right direction. She's like, no. And she took me where I need to go. So, I mean, there's a lot of friendly people there, and they will be eager to help you. And again, like I said before, it's a very safe city. So don't be afraid to talk to strangers. In fact, if you're at a bar at an izakaya, Keenan and I we compied with a lot of different people at different bars and made not travel companions, like little like sample size friends just for the evening, talking and drinking beer with and things like that. It's really cool. And also, if you're staying at a hotel, don't be afraid to ask the front desk for help, for suggestions or anything. They will be glad to tell you directions to someplace, get you where you need to go, call you a cab if you need it, anything. And if it's raining, they'll probably have an umbrella for you to use as well. So take advantage of that as well, like just the concierge desk at your hotel, just for whatever you need. If they can't get it for you, they will tell you where to get it, kind of thing like that. When you're souvenir shopping, Don Quixote. I mentioned it before, it's open 24/7. Best way to describe it, it's a Japanese Walmart. You can get pretty much anything there, from Gundam models, anime figures, video games, towels, shirts, booze, snacks, whatever you can think of, you can find it at a Don Quixote. Maybe Walmart's not even like the right analogy. Maybe a mini mall. It's a mini mall of just all kinds of goods in Japan. So I would say for your souvenirs, go there. Also, it's going to be probably cheaper than anywhere else to get said souvenir. Plus, they do tax-free, so you just bring your passport, you go to the tax-free checkout, and you don't have to pay taxes for those souvenirs, which is always a good thing. And plus, like, if you want snacks for your hotel room, Airbnb, things like that, your Boss coffees, your whiskeys, your beers, go there, stock up your fridge. You'll be good to go. Another thing, I talked about this with Talking Strangers. If you're, don't be afraid to pop into the little tiny bars, the izakayas, in Japan. Like, there's the really popular area, Golden Guy, in Shinjuku, or is it Shibuya? I'll cover that more in detail in those videos because now I'm blanking on which one it is. I think it's Shibuya, actually, not Shinjuku. But don't be afraid to pop into them. Now, some of them might not be for foreigners, but there'll be a sign to let you know, so you don't have to worry about that awkwardness. But no, these little bars, most of the time, the people who are tending bar are probably the shop owner too. 9 times out of 10, they're the friendliest people you're going to meet in your trips. They're going to be glad to pour you a drink. You kanpai, you have a great time. You talk with anybody in there. Even if you don't speak the same language, they're still going to cheers you, and everyone's going to laugh and have a good time. And you'll find when you're at these bars, especially if it's nothing but locals, they're going to be more curious about you than you are about Japan. They're going to ask you all kinds of questions, and it's a really fun experience because then it kind of takes the awkwardness of being in a foreign country. It throws that out the window because you're all of a sudden the center of attention, and where you came to this country and you were curious and inquisitive about everything, now it's reversed and everyone's curious and inquisitive about you. So it does make you feel a little more immersed, and you have a better time and you feel more relaxed in those situations, especially because you're knocking back a few adult beverages as well. But yeah, don't be afraid to pop into these. You're going to have a great time. It's a great place. They're great places to have a drink or to bar hop, kind of thing like that. So don't be intimidated by it. I was on my first trip because they are small and it's usually got a bunch of locals in it. So it's intimidating if you don't speak the language, but don't be intimidated. Pop in there, have a good time. And lastly, for these tips, don't be afraid to use the bidet. I was a little nervous to use it my first time, and I won't go into detail for you, but it's life-changing. Keenan has even bought a bidet for his condo, and I'm going to get one installed in my house very, very soon. But yeah, don't be afraid to use that. Now, the last thing I'm going to cover in this video is some faux pas, some do's and don'ts when you're in Japan. Just so you don't make any awkward situation, because like I said, people are chill, they're relaxed, they're kind, but there are some different, there's different cultures, different things they do differently around here. First up, don't talk on public transportation. If you're traveling with somebody and you need to tell them something, just like whisper or be quiet. Don't have your phone volume turned on to where like music's going to play if you like look at a tweet or a TikTok reel or something like that. Public transportation, public spaces, generally speaking, like people keep to themselves in them. They'll have headphones on if they're playing a video game or listening to music or things like that. So, just be polite and don't talk on those trains. And if you need to talk to your companion, just whisper real quietly like this and things like that. So just so you're not being rude to anybody else. And also kind of a thing on the train, I didn't even put this in my bullet points, but I just thought of it. On the trains, there are sometimes, and it might just be on a certain train, or sometimes it's just during certain times of the day, there are women-only cars. Luckily, I never accidentally walked on one, but I have had friends who have gone and accidentally got on the women's only train. They were guys, obviously, and it was really awkward for a second, like, oops, and they switch cars, things like that. So just be aware. Generally speaking, there's going to be like pink, and it's going to say women's only and things like that. So just pay attention. And if like you see, because people will line up for the train cars, if you see nothing but women in a line for a certain car before the train pulls up, odds are that's probably going to be the women's only car. So just don't get in that line, kind of thing like that. So another faux pas in Japan, there's no tipping. If you go to a bar, you go to a restaurant, they don't do tips. It's included in the seating charge that just about every restaurant has. So If your bill is 10,000 yen, or not 10,000, well, it could be 10,000 yen depending on where you're going. But if your bill is like 1,000 yen, pay 1,000 yen. Don't pay like 1,300 yen or 1,200 yen or something like that. Leave a little extra. Don't do that because sometimes it's seen as an insult because the servers, they give you great service because it's expected, not because they're trying to get money from you. And also, it does make an awkward situation because the server will think you forgot money and they will try to hunt you down and give you your money back. So just know that they don't do tips there. So you don't have to leave a tip. What your bill is, like, that's your total. So that's always nice. And usually, I think in most restaurants, tax is included in the price. So if you, like, if a beer is like 300 yen and your meal is 700 yen, you're going to pay 1,000 yen. So it also makes going out easier to figure out what you're spending too. So that's always nice. So earlier in the video, we talked about vending machines and the abundance of them and convenience stores and getting food and snacks and things like that. Just know that eating and drinking while walking is considered very rude. If you pay attention, you'll see if someone gets something from a vending machine, if they want it then, they will drink it or eat it at the vending machine and throw it away there. You won't see a lot of trash cans on the streets of Tokyo, even though it's super clean, because most people, if they get a snack for the go and they want to enjoy it right where they got it, if they got it at a convenience store, they'll eat it at the convenience store, either at one of the little seats inside the convenience store or right outside the convenience store and throw it away there. Same with the vending machine. They'll eat or drink whatever they got out of the vending machine right there, throw it away right there, and then carry on about their day. Eating and drinking while walking, considered very rude. Just don't do it. I mean, I know you're busy and you want to do things, but you can take a couple minutes to eat and drink your thing right then and there, and then carry on about your day. Also, I should have said this right after the tipping part. When you're paying for something at a store or even paying at a restaurant, you'll see these little plastic trays that'll be like this big, kind of thing like that. That's what you put your card or your money in. You don't usually hand payment directly over to the person. Again, considered kind of rude. You put it in the tray. Sometimes they'll hold the tray. Sometimes the tray will be on the counter. You just put your money or your card in the tray. They'll take it. They'll charge, or they'll give it, put your change in the tray and hand it back to you. That's just the way they exchange money there. Sometimes places, they're like, oh, these Westerners, they'll just take your money from you. But generally speaking, like I first couple times on my first trip to Japan, I went to hand my card or money over, and they just like point at the tray. I was like, oh, sumimasen. Sumimasen is something learn because you'll be saying it a lot on your first trip. Put my card there, put the cash there. And they took it, and they put it, passed it back, and everything like that. It takes a couple transactions to get used to because you're not used to it. But it becomes second nature. In fact, so much so when I got home, I was almost like going to set my credit card down while paying for something because I got so used to it. Another thing that's kind of different from the West, escalators. I shouldn't say the West. I should say America. I'm not going to speak for Europe and Australia at all. But, on our escalators in America, you stand on the right. If you want to walk up the escalator, you go on the left. Flip that for Japan. You stand on the left, walk up on the right. Just think of it the same way as their cars are different. So you just do that differently there. And then kind of lastly, don't sit on the ground out in public spaces. Like if you're at the mall or, you got something from the vending machine, you just want to sit down for a second and drink your drink or eat your snack or something like that. Don't sit down, in public spaces. That is also considered rude. So just don't do it. Like you'll see people do it because people don't know. And a lot of times, Japanese people are just too polite to say anything to you. But I do have it on authority from my friends in Japan. It is considered a faux pas and considered a little bit rude. So if you are, you're walking around all day and your legs, your feet getting a little tired and you do need to take a rest, if you pop into like a 7-Eleven or a Lawson's or a Family Mart, the larger ones will have like seating. So like you can grab a drink or something like that and just go sit down for a second, drink your drink, rest your feet. Sometimes vending machines and things like that will have benches by them. Or, you can always pop into like a bar or a cafe or something like that. Again, get a coffee, get a soda, get a beer, get a highball or something like that. And just have like a quick drink, relax for a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you need. And just chill and relax. That way you're not, being rude and getting in people's way and things like that. And you're just, you're enjoying a nice cafe, you're enjoying a nice bar and you're just relaxing because you don't need to be in a rush anywhere you're going. days are going to be long in Japan because you're going to be jet lagged and your body is not going to adjust right away. So take those minutes when you're like, your little dog, your dogs are barking at you and things like that. Take a minute to just chill in a cafe or something like that. Enjoy a coffee, enjoy a soda, and just relax and everything like that. So that is going to cover it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you can see the other videos when they come out in this series, so you can be better prepared for your future trip to Japan, which I hope you do very soon because it's a great place to go. Next few videos, they're going to be about the different districts in Tokyo. I might combine like Shibuya and Shinjuku into one because I feel a lot of people do both of those in the same day. Harajuku and Ginza might be one video together. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I'm going to start writing the scripts and then we'll see how many videos we get out of those. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.